Damn, it has been a minute. I might be a bit rusty, so bear with me while I get my footing back. Okay, let's do this. Hey, my name is Carrie, and I'm an artist and illustrator. Today, we've got a chatty video while I work on a sketchbook spread and talk about the long break that I am literally just now coming back from. So, if that at all sounds interesting to you, grab a drink, grab your sketchbook, maybe a tablet, and draw along with me. A quick word on the materials we're using today. I'm still in my Strathmore Series 500 mixed media sketchbook, and I'm using copic markers and a TWSBI Eco fountain pen with waterproof black fountain pen ink. Okay, quick intro out of the way, let's get chatting. So let's get into where I've been lately and why I took such a long break from making art and posting online. Back in March or so, I started to feel like my art didn't have any clear direction, or rather that I was only concerned about making art for Instagram and eventual YouTube videos, and that mentality was just sucking all the fun out of art. It also took a lot of time away from my self-taught artist classes, which are super important to me. As I'm sure I've mentioned before, I only really started learning art in my 20s. I'm still very much in the early stages of learning. I'm not very confident in my overall skills, though that is slowly changing, so cheers to me. But to be more concerned with creating content than actually improving was really putting a damper on my art practice. And even as I write this, I feel like I've heard other online artists make similar remarks. That's the nature of the beast, I fear. You can dedicate your life to feeding the algorithm and it will still demand more from you. We're all like Sisyphus pushing that fucking boulder up a mountain. So, yeah, given the bleak outlook I had, I took a break. Not only from social media, but I also took a bit of a break from making art, and that was the hardest part for me. Because art is my passion, I want to practice and improve and create, so to feel like I need a break is really distressing. Part of my brain knows that I need a break, but another, much louder part feels like the longer of a break I take, the longer it will inevitably take me to get my skills to the place I need them to be. Where that amorphous place is anyone's guess, really. I suppose we can think of it as yet another Sisyphean task. But taking a break was the best thing for me in the long run. It gave me space to think about what I wanted to create, and it also gave me space to look at what I've accomplished so far and pick a direction to continue in. In the time that I've been away, I continued practicing my art fundamentals. To be honest, I don't think I'll ever be done with art fundamentals, but I also worked on traditional inking and I even tried painting again. Once I'm done with the sketchbook that I'm working in here, I'll be able to show you everything that I've tried, but for now, you should know that I've learned a lot about who I am as an artist, and I'd love to share some of that with you. I didn't realize it at the time I started my break, but I suppose I was experiencing a bit of art block. I know that we all tend to go through art block every once in a while, and it's never a good time, so I guess let me just walk you through how I approached it and found my inspiration to create again. Maybe it can help you out a bit. So, the first thing I did was completely take art creation off the table for a few weeks. I stayed away from art social media. I didn't watch any other artists on YouTube. I completely focused on other things in my life. For me, that's taking care of my home and my family, gardening, and reading. Even if on certain days I thought, maybe I kind of want to draw something, I just didn't. I resisted so that my brain could take a full break, a detox of sorts. I think this kind of break is important. For those of you who might do strength training at the gym, like I do, I sort of think of it as a deload. I am reducing all stress on my body so that I can come back refreshed. For those of you who don't strength train, I'm sure that makes absolutely no sense, but the point remains. Reduce stress so you can be completely refreshed and ready to go again. After a few weeks, I felt pretty rested and started to think about where I wanted to take my art practice. I came up with a few things. One, I wanted to try some new mediums. Two, I wanted to improve my fundamentals. Three, I wanted to continue my self-taught artist curriculum. And four, I wanted to make progress toward creating something concrete. I didn't quite know what that something concrete might be, but I wanted something more than just quick sketchbook pieces and my digital art studies. So I started with some new mediums. First, I got some Posca paint markers and I ended up really enjoying them. I think they've been a great addition to my sketchbook practice because they forced me to work in a more graphic, pop arty kind of way rather than striving for realism all the time. It let me try stylizing some of my art rather than trying to create a copy of a photo reference, which is what I always want to do, but also what I'm trying not to do. This is the constant struggle of a beginner, I fear. I also made a concerted effort to improve my traditional inking, and it's really fucking difficult, let me tell you. I decided to follow a class from New Masters Academy, and it led me down some interesting paths. I tried my regular fine liners, I got a couple of nib pens and ink, I tried some brushes. I'm still very much a beginner in this, and I don't think I've made a single thing with traditional ink that I would consider good. Honestly, I'm still trying to embrace the mistakes that are inevitable with traditional inking and also the patience required because holy fuck, it takes forever. But I learned that inking is a very important aspect of my art practice. In a slightly different vein, trying new mediums also taught me a few things that I don't want to continue with at all. Take gouache, for example. I've tried to learn how to paint with gouache at least 5 times, and each time has been woefully unsuccessful. I know it must be me because I watch so many amazing artists have a strong command of the medium, but for some reason, I can't get a fucking handle on it. I tried it again during my hiatus, and again, I was fucking disappointed. But I also stopped and thought about what aspects of the medium just don't work for me. First and foremost is the reactivation. I work in a lot of layers, so having to deal with reactivation and paint moving around is a literal nightmare. Also, the consistency issues, trying to figure out the difference between cream and milk and tea consistency. Nightmare. A nightmare. That's not what I want to be doing. I don't want to fuss around with paint consistencies. I simply want to learn to paint. So one day, my wife and I were browsing around a local thrift shop and we came across this really funky acrylic painting, and it occurred to me that I had tried water-based paints because they seemed to be the easiest to deal with, but I hadn't tried acrylic paint yet. So we went to the art supply store and picked up some acrylic paint and some canvases for me to play around with, and my first painting was an absolute masterpiece. No, of course not. It was actually janky as fuck. Seriously, let me pop a quick picture of it on the screen so we can laugh at it together. I tried watching some tutorials before even trying anything with the paints because I simply wouldn't be me if I didn't. And yet, when I tried to apply the paint to the paper, it ended up being a complete mess. But here's the thing. While that painting ended up a complete fucking mess, I had so much fun making it. I loved how quickly the paint dried. I loved that I could layer and not worry about paint lifting up or moving around. I loved the different textures that the paints made. I was having a fucking blast just throwing paint around on this paper. And now I get to finally learn how to paint after spending so long thinking that I simply couldn't do it. I think overall, my break has been really good for me. I've explored a lot of avenues and am feeling more connected to my practice overall. I have some ideas that I'm keeping close to the chest for now, but will hopefully share in the coming months. But I hope some of what I said today resonated, and you can take this as permission to step back every once in a while and examine the overall landscape of your art practice. Just because we're on a path doesn't mean we have to stay on it. So, before I let you go, I just want to talk a bit about the actual art that you see me working on today. I've recently gotten back to my roots a little bit and embraced alcohol markers as a medium I can fall back on when I'm feeling particularly uninspired. This is actually the last alcohol marker spread in this sketchbook because I realized that I've been trying to make them work and they just don't, at least not on this paper. As I mentioned at the top, I'm still in my Strathmore Series 500 mixed media sketchbook and I'm using copics and a fountain pen. There must be something about this paper that prevents the markers from mixing in the way I like them to, because anytime I've used them, I've hated the results. This page was actually an experiment to see if maybe I could use the markers in a more graphic way and then put ink on top to create a sort of pop art effect. It definitely came out vibrant, and I think I was successful in doing what I set out to do, but it just isn't what I like to use my markers for. After I completed this page, I actually got a new Ohuhu sketchbook because that paper is amazing with alcohol markers. So I've just decided to keep the markers on that paper and use this sketchbook for other things. It holds paint really well, it works with pen and ink okay, though I think I'd prefer smoother paper for that. And it takes graphite well too, so it's not like I'm at a loss for how to use the sketchbook. As for the spread itself, this is just another of my fruit themed pages. I've done so many by now that I've lost count. And despite the concerns about the paper and the way the ink lays, I really love the vibrancy. The colors that I chose really maintain the bold saturation that I wanted, and overall, I think the page is really fun. I'd love to try dragonfruit again on paper that actually holds alcohol marker ink better, but this was definitely a great first attempt. Okay, so that's about all I have to say for today. So I'll just leave you with some background music and we can vibe for the rest of the video. So see you at the end. Alright, so if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. You're a real one. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing so you can follow along on my art journey. As always, have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.